on into a brand new Hollywood news update. These are one of my favorite things to do with you guys, so let's go. Okay, Netflix is moving forward in spite of the, the writers' strike that is going on right now. They are continuing their anthology with the director Ryan Murphy at the helm. Their season 1 was of Monster featured, Jeffrey Dahmer. I did say that was definitely a very emotional thing to watch, and so that was very, very interesting. It was so successful, they were moving forward with it as an anthology series. Season 2 is in the works, and they are announcing the, I don't want to say star, because that just sounds so weird, but then again, we have become a modern society that is more televised in the sense of violence. So maybe it's not too far off to call a murderer a star, only because we seem to glorify people doing these heinous yet infamous acts every single day, plastered all over social media, and then we wonder why, people that are suffering from mental health problems do these things. It's sometimes, I actually made this comment recently with someone I was having a conversation with, and what's very interesting about this particular topic is the fact that Chris Rock actually made a joke about this exact thing in his Netflix special, the live Netflix special, Selective Outrage by Chris Rock, which is actually a special that we broke down on the Brand Live with Vince and Taylor, which aired on his YouTube channel. It was very interesting. I was mentioning to Vince Russo and some others, back in the 90s, after Columbine and other things like that, people were starting to say the times haven't become more violent, they've become more televised. And I think in the modern age of social media, that isn't that far off the mark, if you know what I'm saying. Like to Chris Rock's joke, and to his point, he was making, a joke about actual social commentary that was very poignant, in my opinion. It's easier to be infamous than it is to be excellent. And there's only a few ways to become famous. And excellent is very hard. Not a lot of people have the dedication to be like a Serena Williams or a Tim Burton, or, the list goes on and on and on and on, right? So what do? If you do things that we see every single day to become infamous. And so, yeah, that's very, very interesting about our society as a whole, and how we are almost becoming desensitized to certain types of violence that are going on every single day in America. But I guess that's the end of my social commentary for right now, until we get to later on in this episode where I have some cringeworthy things to talk about. For any of my video gaming fans out there who are watching this podcast, this Hollywood news update right here is for you. GTA fans, Grand Theft Auto 6 is set to become the most expensive video game, period, ever made. Their total budget, not including marketing, is expected to exceed $1 billion to become the single most expensive video game ever made to date in the history of video games. So if you add $1 billion plus their marketing budget, which you have to assume is pretty hefty if you're already spending $1 billion, you're going to want to make sure you get a return on that investment. It is already estimated that Rockstar Games, who is behind Grand Theft Auto, is predicting to recover the cost and recoup the cost of the $1 billion plus marketing within the first week of its release. So I want to know, are you a Grand Theft Auto fan? Are you looking forward to Grand Theft Auto 6? Let me know. I want to hear from you. All right, we have talked in length and to great detail about all the changes that are coming to DC Comics after the newest regime overhaul, which now has two co-CEOs of DC Comics and DC Studios, Peter Safran and James Gunn. James Gunn being the brains of the mind behind the films that are now killing it in the box office, the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise, which is having its most successful film to date in the history of the franchise. Well, they are back in the news because they are going to be highlighting some of the Guardians of the Galaxy cast in the upcoming Superman film called Superman Legacy. This is going to be one of the major feature films that is going to happen now that the Flash film for DC Comics has done a complete reset of the DCU. They are not so much focused on the DCEU, which is the DC Extended Universe. Now they are trying to cut ties with all the confusing stuff that confuses casual fans and simplifying their platform to include 2 major films a year and 2 major streaming television shows for their apps. So this will be a much more directed focus, which is very, very good. A lot of things have been kind of shotgunned out there just as money grabs. So now they can actually have a more singular focus on projects and the details, as my grandma used to like to say, the devil's in the details. So now you can really have that sort of dedication to a lot of this stuff that we weren't necessarily seeing because it was too much, too fast, too soon, fans getting overloaded, everything's so expensive and so forth. Now we can kind of... So officially, the Guardians of the Galaxy cast will be featured in Superman Legacy, which will also be directed by James Gunn. Moving on to more Guardians of the Galaxy news for you guys. Super Mario Brothers movie has officially been dethroned in the box office. They were holding strong for like 5 weeks as the single most profitable in the box office of any animated film ever made in the history of animated films in cinema. And now there is a new top dog, and that is Guardians of the Galaxy 3. They made over $114 million in their opening weekend in the box office. The top 3 movies right now in the domestic box office are now as follows. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 with what I said, which was $114 million. Then you've got the Super Mario Brothers coming in with an extra $18.6 million over the weekend. And then rounding out the top 3 is the amazingness that is The Evil Dead Rise. That gained another $5.73 million, which is amazing considering it was not even slated to be a theatrical release. It was originally supposed to be straight to streaming, but they had such positive feedback from their private screening that they decided to turn it into a theatrical release. What a crazy Cinderella story that is. Moving right along with the Hollywood news. Now, you guys may or may not be aware of the writer's strike going on right now in Hollywood, but it is affecting a lot of your favorite late night TV shows, your talk shows, as well as movies and television. Some of the film projects that are and television products that are slated to be delayed because of this are including Blade, Stranger Things 5, Daredevil Born Again, Big Mouth, Cobra Kai, Yellow Jackets, Abbott Elementary, and more. So definitely stay tuned with this channel, and I'll give you guys more updates as more news comes about. And then to round out some of the news, to leave you on a kind of a high note as we head into the first commercial break, is John Wick 4. I know Vince Russo is a huge John Wick fan. So am I. Love the John Wick series. I think if more people tried to emulate more of the Keanu Reeves vibe, the world would be such a better place. But I guess that's just me. John Wick 4, after being a huge success and arguably the most successful out of the John Wick franchise, they are officially coming to digital and Blu-ray and DVD. On May 23rd, you can get digital versions of John Wick 4 to watch and enjoy in your home on different streaming platforms. And then, of course, on June 13th, John Wick 4 will be available on DVD and Blu-ray. So mark your calendars and don't miss it.